The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome once again to another episode of the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley and I'm joined today by Star Sports reporter Sean Holland. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now later on the show, Kieran will be joined by O'Donovan Rossa captain Naomh Aban. The Skibbereen club are on the crest of a wave after their county intermediate LGFA win over Naomh Aban at the weekend. But first, we will discuss the recent goings on in the county championship in Cork at the moment, and discuss later on as well the Carberry games, including the Carberry Junior A Football Championship, the current goings on that, and the Carberry Junior Hurling final that's going to happen this weekend between Dohenys and Ballinascarthy. But I suppose, Sean, there's one place to start, and it is the side that are flying in the Premier Senior Football Championship at the moment. Seanie Cahalane's Castlehaven, they beat St Finbarrs in the semi-final in Páirc Uí Chaoimh by 18 points to 14, and it means that now the Haven will meet Nemo in the final after the City Club beat Mallow 2-11 to 1-5 on the same day in the same ground. So Castlehaven were very impressive, Sean, to be honest with you, and they looked comfortable in this game.
They did, Matt. It was, fantastic performance from the Haven. Obviously being touted as favourites all the way through, and even carrying the favourites tag into this game. Some might wilt under it, but they seem to just embrace it and drive on with it. And it was another fantastic performance by them. And it's the old torn the side again for St Finbarrs. Brian Hurley was doing the damage. 11 points there, serious scoring, and even just Brian's ability to kick off right and left foots just make him, probably the best Cork forward at the moment in the county. So it was a fantastic performance by the Haven, and to even do it without Damien Cahalane and Conor Cahalane, who played brief spells towards the end of the game, to start without them and still carry a lead into half time and show no signs of wilting. So another fantastic performance by the Haven, and I'd imagine you'd nearly have to fancy him now against Nemo.
You definitely would, considering their shooting was very, very good on Sunday against the Bar, 69% overall. Brian Hurley got 100% shot accuracy in the first half, as you mentioned there. 8 points in the first half, 11 overall, 6 points for play in the first half, which is the total of many teams across the county and across the country even. So it was a magnificent performance by Brian Hurley, and we have to expect it from the main man from Castlehaven at the moment. But going into the final against Nemo, Sean, you'd have to say Haven are favourites, don't you? I know Nemo, there's a tag that they are the aristocrats of Gaelic football in Cork, but the Haven are flying at the moment, and they look to be in serious fettle going into that final in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, they're bouncing off the ground, really, Matt. Like, it's, Nemo know how to win finals, there's that, but you have to look at where a team is now at the moment. And I know Nemo might have had the big names that they would have in the mid-teens and the mid-noughties, but Castlehaven have really developed a squad now that rivals their famous one in the 90s. They have numerous players who are training week in, week out with Cork, and they have a lot of young players coming through. And what's key with Castlehaven, with their players who aren't even playing inter-county, they all know their roles and they know what part they play on the pitch when they go out, and it really kind of all gels together, and you saw that again on Sunday. Obviously, we're going to look a small bit more into the final when it comes up, but these two have met in previous deciders on many occasions. Since 2013, they've met in 4 finals. It's two each, so it'll be the deciding one now in 2 weeks' time. But as we said, we'd have to give the nod to the Haven just with the form they've been carrying even from last year. They brought that straight back into this year, and they're going to be very tough to beat.
They are definitely, and we'll discuss that final when it comes around. And on next week's podcast as well, should be an interesting final. That is also the Premier Senior Football Championship this weekend, or last weekend, should I say, the relegation playoff between Carbery Rangers and Éire. Thankfully, from a Ross point of view, they stayed up. They beat Éire on a scoreline of 111 to 2-6. Paul Hotnett scored a crucial goal in the second half in a game that Ross were losing at half time. And John O'Rourke got 4 points, 3 of those for play as well. So, look, Sean, it's a job done, I suppose, for Carbery Rangers staying up in the top grade of Cork football. And it was a difficult assignment for them, but they got over the line.
They did indeed, and obviously it wasn't the best of starts for them. And you could give some small leeway to whatever side had a poor start going into this game, having to wait so long and being put on the long finger. But with Ross having a good few injuries going into the game, just to get over the line was all they wanted, and to have another crack off the Premier Senior grade now next year is huge for them, and it's huge for the players coming up within their ranks, to have a go at the top level of football. But it was a case of just get over the line, get the job done, and Ross did that. So they'll be looking forward to 2025 with a positive outlook. You saw Mallow there last year. They were in the relegation decider and they went all the way to the semi-final this year. So there is the potential that Ross could use this as a springboard for them going into next year and kick on.
Hopefully that'll be a good omen for Carbery Rangers next season as they go on their quest in the 2025 Premier Senior Football Championship. Moving down to Senior A, there was disappointment for Dohenys. They lost in the semi-final last weekend to Knocknagree by a scoreline of 118 to 10 points. A bad start really for Dohenys in this one. Knocknagree were around 12 points to 2 up, and it looked to be one-way sailing. Then Dohenys pulled it back to 12-10 around a period in the third quarter of the game. Then Owen Lavers gets sent off, and Knocknagree scored 1-6 without reply towards the end of the game as well. And Daniel O'Malley did a superb job in this game on Fionn Hurley, quelling his influence on proceedings. You just have to hold your hands up, Sean. Knocknagree were the better side on the day, and Dohenys will have to lick their wounds for next season.
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument there really, Matt. Just the fact that it was just such a slow start for Dohenys. They gave themselves way too much to do. And even bringing it back to 2 points, you would have said momentum's on their side. And then the red for Owen was a cruel blow. And he had been one of their best players all the way through the year. That's a tough one to take. And really, it was kind of game over at that stage. Dohenys went chasing goals. Knocknagree were quite content with knocking over the points. But they'll rue the start, to be kind of saying, was the other semi-final, the fact that it went to extra time and penalties, hinder them a small bit, but it's the same for both teams. And they'd be very disappointed because they were going very well all through the year. But it was Knocknagree's game and fully deserving.
And Knocknagree will be in the Senior A final, but there is West Cork involvement in the Senior A final after all, because Brian O'Driscoll, Type of Cork's Brian O'Driscoll, that is playing with Carrigaline this year, and they won, as you mentioned there, Sean, on a penalty shootout in the other semi-final, beating Kanturkey with 17 points apiece after extra time, and Carrigaline won 2-1 on penalties. So I suppose it's good that Brian has made the final in his first year with Carrigaline, and he is a main player for them as well.
Well, he's a huge player for him. Brian would be a big player for any team in the county. So it's nice that since he's made the move now, they're making the run in now in the Senior A, and they'll fancy their chances now against Knocknagree. It's proverbial. David versus Goliath. You have the small parish against the big town, Carrigaline. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Carrigaline and Kanturk, a lot of people probably would have said whoever came out the better of that would probably, go on and win it. But Knocknagree's performance against Dohenys was very encouraging. But for Brian personally, a nice achievement, and it'd be nice if he could get a medal now at the end of it.
Definitely so, and we'll be all rooting for Brian from West Cork point of view going into that Senior A final. In Premier Intermediate, the two semi-finals, just to briefly go through it, was Kilshannig 2-11, Eve Lair 1-11 after extra time. So that means Eve Lair and Chris O'Jones exit the championship in the semi-finals. And Naomh beat Naomh Aban by 11 points to 1-7 in the other semi-final. So it's an Naomh Kilshannig final in Premier Intermediate. In Intermediate A, it was very disappointing from a West Cork point of view here. We thought we might be on the road to an all West Cork final, but it didn't seem that way by the results on Saturday, unfortunately, from that point of view. Adrigole lost on a scoring of 1-9 to 11 points against Boherbue. In the game, really, Sean, Adrigole were control over most of it. They were 11 points to 5 up midway through the second half in and around that time. But Boherbue scored 1-4 without reply, only taking the lead in the 65th minute of this one. So it's disappointment for Adrigole. Very tough one to take. It's going to be tough to bounce back from that next season, isn't it? Because Adrigole exited at the same stage last year in the semi-finals, so it's going to be a hard one to bounce back from.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one, but they did show signs of promise, this year, an improvement. They'll have a few more numbers now as well this year or next year coming up. But to lose a game that you're up 6 points, going into the final quarter, especially in football, is really tough to take. But you got to give it to Boherbue, to have the experience and wherewithal to keep plugging away. And obviously the goal for them was massive, but it'll really sting Adrigole now, Matt. Being in that position, they'd really fancied their chances, and they'd have fancied their chances going into the final as well had they gotten through. But it's a tough one to take. I'd imagine it'll be a tough one now to get themselves back up for next year. But they got to look as well at the positives. You have a promotion from the county league, where you went to the semi-final and you really got pipped right at the end. So I wouldn't be too down about it. Take a few weeks to get the minds right, and they'll be looking strong again now in 2025.
And in the other semi-final as well, Gabriel Rangers also fell to a defeat, this time to Glanmire, 1-9 to 11 points. And to be honest, I was at this game, Sean, and it was 6 points apiece coming up to half-time. Then Glanmire get a goal after their midfielder plays a free from the sideline into the square, and the Glanmire player just gets a strong hand to it, a fist to the back of the net, and that probably gave Glanmire the boost to push on in the second half, in all honesty. Gabriel's did bring it back to a point game towards the end of it, and unfortunately from their point of view, they had a shot at the end, a bit of a pot shot. It went wide, and Glanmire won the game in the end, sparking jubilant scenes from the Glanmire side. But for Gabriel's, it was disappointment, obviously. They had a 68% shot accuracy in this game. They were absolutely brilliant. But ultimately, it is the East Cork side that go through.
Yeah, as you said it, you're there. Not much else to add, but Gabriel's, along with Adrigole, can hold their heads very high, for the year they've had as well. So it's equally as tough. We thought we might have got a West Cork final, but it wasn't to be. But Glanmire Boherbue should be an entertaining final in itself as well.
Should be, and it's disappointment from the West Cork point of view, but it should be a good final, as Sean mentioned there, between Glanmire and Boherbue. In the Premier Junior Championship as well, Kilmurray beat Buttevant on a scoreline of 2-9 to 11 points, and Cannavee beat Kinsale on a scoreline of 1-10 to 1-9. So it's a Kilmurray-Cannavee final there. In the Carbery Junior A Football Championship, there was 2 games last weekend. In the semi-final, first of all, Sean, Dermot O'Mahonas carry on their double quest. They beat Castlehaven on a scoreline of 1-10 to 10 points in Dunmanway on Friday evening, and this club keep producing. I know we'll discuss the hurling in a bit against Ballinascarthy in a preview piece, but what a result for Bohenas, and the train keeps rolling for them.
Yeah, fantastic achievement, Matt. It's almost like a broken record at this stage. Commend them on their achievements, but you got to give it to them. It's tough enough to make the final in one court and concentrating on one court, but to make it in both is a fantastic achievement. And they're really driving on now this year, and they'll like their chances at really getting one, if not both, of the titles. And it'd be interesting to ask someone from Castletown if they were offered one now, would they take it? It'd be interesting to hear that. But to get into a football final is fantastic, and Castlehaven are a tough team to beat at that grade. Faced them enough times now to know that you never get an easy game off them, because they have so many experienced campaigners. Fellas who are a bit too long in the tooth to be still going with the senior team, go with the juniors, and they bring that knowledge and experience and really intelligent football play down to their second stringers. And in fairness to Mahonas, they dug it out, got the result now, and put away the football gloves in time to pick up the hurling helmet this week.
Exactly so, and we'll discuss the Ballinbehoona's game in just a little while. But before that, more news from the Carbery Junior A Football Championship. It will be Kilmacabea and St Mary's in the other semi-final after the Inniskeen Balneen club beat Bandascarty on a scoreline of 111 to 7 points. A comprehensive win, to be honest, from a St Mary's point of view there. And it means they face Kilmacabea on Saturday at 4 p.m. in Ballincarriga. Should be a good game. And St Mary's did face Kilmacabea in the quarter-final 2 years ago, a game I was at, I remember, above in Ardfield. And St Mary's scored a last-minute point to win it. So, and got to the semi-finals, only losing to St James's in that semi-final, and St James's obviously went on and won it. So, like, Kilmacabea might have Damien Gore, they've other great players, I'm sure, but Mares will definitely put it up to them on Saturday, I'm sure.
They will, Matt. Like, I have the benefit of playing them this year now, and they're a really organised unit, and they've got a couple of very nice forwards there who are well able to score. And going into the game against Ballinascarty, I'd imagine a lot of people would have probably been saying Ball, but like having faced St Mary's and knowing what they're like this year, they are a tough team to beat, and Kilmacabea probably won't have it all their own way now the next day either. But St Mary's having been knocked down to hurling, they were able to go all in the football, and it's really paid off from there now the last day, and it was a fantastic win for them. Obviously Kilmacabea will be another step up, and we'll see how that will go for them. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and probably one that will be well worth going seeing next Sunday.
Definitely will, and definitely should be a good game this weekend in that one. And finally, in the Carbery Junior A Hurling Championship, it is the final this weekend. We have come down to the last two in that competition. It is Ballinbehoona's against Bandascarty, and a lot of people would probably fancy Ball as favourites, but I was interviewing both their mentors for this week's Star, and I spoke to JC O'Flynn from Bandascarty, and apparently Chris Ryan is definitely out, their full-back. He's definitely injured for this game. Kieran, their centre-back, is a doubt as well. I know Ball have won 2 of the last 3 Carbery Junior A Hurling Championships, but in your opinion, look, hearing that news, does that kind of even the playing field a bit, Sean, in your opinion? Do Mahoonas have a genuine chance in this one?
Oh yeah, I would have even said before any injury news, Matt, that it had been an even enough playing field. And now when you take out 2 quality players like that, it really puts Mahoonas in a fantastic position to go ahead and claim the honours now the next day. Obviously, Ball had the benefit of playing in the county league and had a real high class of hurling there. To even win that league was a fantastic achievement. It just shows like how well they started the year, and then obviously bringing that into championship, and they really showed their colours there in the group stage, and even against Randalls as well. But Ball have tended to be a second half team this year, really kicking into gear. So you'd be imagining Mahoonas will keep an eye on that as well, whatever decisions they make to who to mark, whether to concentrate on Jeremy Ryan in midfield, to have a look at Brian Donovan, Seanie Cahalane. There's a lot of quality operators there for Ball who've been producing all through the year. So it'll be interesting to see the matchups. And then obviously Ball will, when they're down 2 defenders, who's going to be picking up Jamie Lucy, who's going to be looking at Garrod, who's going to be looking at Kevin, who's going to be looking at Quailon. You have a lot of options there on the other side for Mahoonas as well. So one thing, it probably is a shame that it's clashing with the Premier Senior Hurling Final, that people will have to choose between one or the other, because it really would be a good showcase for Carbery hurling if this was on its own, and people could go see it rather than having another eye on the Premier Senior, because they will have pretty much the 2 best teams in the grade going at it this year, and it'll be interesting to see who comes up on top, Matt.
Definitely should, and there is a big preview in this week's Star, as I mentioned, for this game as well. And just before we leave this game as well, you mentioned a good point there, Sean, about the Premier Senior being on the same time as this final. And even look at the dates in the calendar on Saturday, for example, the only thing that seems to be on across the country, not even the county, is the interprovincial games, the FRC games, which are happening in Croke Park this weekend. So is that kind of an opportunity missed from a Carbery point of view, just not to have the Carbery final on a Saturday rather than the Sunday, and just leave the Premier Senior final on the Sunday, just for more people to go, I guess. But maybe we're talking waffle here, but like, is that an opportunity missed?
Do you know what it probably is like? Because I even put it my own cap on, just even looking back at last year when we made the Junior A football final, and Barrow and Kilmacabea were playing. Carbery decided to put it on a Friday night, and even the game was streamed as well. So you had not only the stream, but you had a serious crowd. I remember being just even going around the parade before the game. You know, there was a huge crowd up in the hill, and there was people behind the goal, and they were on the other side behind the wire. And, you know, it was a real spectacle for Carbery, you know, and it's really kind of like, you know, put it on the centre stage, so to say, you know, that everyone in West Cork could really consume, you know, the two best teams in the grade going at it. And there'd be no difference in the hurling if they had a Friday or a Saturday game this weekend that would, you know, bring a few extra numbers, because I'd imagine there's a few hurling stalwarts around who mightn't be involved with Ballinascarta Mahoonies would probably decide to go to the Premier Senior game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But if that wasn't on, if the Carbery game was on at a different time, I'd imagine they'd be making the trip to Inniskeen. So look, it's the Carbery board make the decisions there, and you know, but it is probably an opportunity miss, being honest.
Yeah, maybe it is, and definitely the people will have to choose between those two great finals, and it will be a difficult decision, obviously. But as we mentioned there, it is Ball against Mahoonies on Sunday at 4 p.m. in Inniskeen, and I'd recommend anybody that is free to go down and watch that game. It should be a cracker. We're going to take a quick break now, and after the break, we'll hear from Naomh Aban, O'Donovan Rossa's captain.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So welcome back to the Star Sport podcast, and in a while Kieran will be chatting to the O'Donovan Rossa LGFA captain Naomh Aban about their intermediate win over Naomh Aban at the weekend. They beat them 12 points to 1-8. To put in context, Sean, Skibbereen were in Junior C in 2018 and have jumped 3 grades since. They won 19 out of their last 20 championship games, and as well as that, Naomh Aban were the team to beat Skibb in the 2022 junior final as well. So maybe a bit of revenge on their minds in that game as well. But it's a miraculous achievement for Skibbereen to go all the way from Junior C to up the way to Senior 2025. It's a miraculous achievement, and fair play to all involved.
Oh, it's incredible, you know, even to win the junior last year, the junior county alone was a fantastic achievement. I remember distinctly, it was my first week on the job here, and we're coming in to see Skibb winning the county title, and they were overjoyed with that. And then they went on to win the Munster, and then went on to win the All Ireland. You said, you know, is this their peak? And even to just kick on this year, and some of the scores they're putting up is phenomenal, you know. And it's a real credit to them, and credit to James O'Donovan, you know, their coach. And it's a real young nucleus of the team. You know, the club is only set up since 2010. So, you know, to make the ground they've made so far is absolutely fantastic. And, you know, they just don't know how to lose at the moment. It's just game after game. Skibb know how to win. They're winning these close games. And now they're going to go into another provincial campaign, and they know what it takes. They know that, you know, when they're coming to these winter months, how to play football, how to win these tight, close games. And you couldn't, you know, write them off for a Munster title here now as well. So Scartaglen is their next opponent. So it'd be interesting to see how they match up against them, because we all know when you go into Munster provincials, it's always the Kerry team that are the dangerous ones. So it'd be very interesting to see how Skibb go. But you know, sky is the limit, and there's no sign of stopping him.
Especially, the Kerry LGFA scenes on a crest of a wave after they won the All-Ireland Senior title this year. So it should be a very difficult game for O'Donovan Rossa. So let's hear from their captain, fantastic, Naomh Aban now.
We're delighted now to be joined on the podcast by O'Donovan Rossa captain Naomh Aban, just days after the county intermediate final win against Naomh Aban. Has it hit you yet, Laura, that Skibbereen are going senior?
Definitely not, I'd say. Obviously, we're still on the high from winning and everything, but I think the realisation that we'll be playing up senior next year still hasn't really kicked in.
This is a remarkable story. Like, I want to go back to 2018 first. That's when Skibbereen won the Junior C county final. I think you were still in secondary school in Skibbereen back then, were you? And like
I was.
I think of the journey from Laura from 2018 to now, from a junior C team to becoming a senior side in 2025. Like, it's just been with fairy tale stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think even I've spoke to you about this before, where when we were junior C, our ultimate aim really was to get to junior A football. I'll never forget Derek Tobin. He was our coach at the time, and he was always like, I believe that you can get to be a junior A team. And if only he knew and we knew, I suppose that we've gone a bit further now than that.
It's just like I said, it's been a remarkable run these last couple of years. This was your fifth county final in a row against Naomh Aban last Sunday in Clodove, and it was such a tight game. But you think, like, you won by a point in the end, but the journey that you've been on, how much of a role has that had to play in you getting over a game like this?
I'd say it's played a massive part, to be honest. Especially even if I just pick out the All Ireland final from last year. We were down a few points against Claremorris with only a few minutes left, and I think we stuck together and we dug it out as a team. And again, last Sunday was very similar in that we got late few scores, and we managed the last 10 minutes really well.
That journey you've been on, like you mentioned last year, that's when the Skibbereen team won county, Munster and All Ireland junior titles, and that opened the door to intermediate where you campaigned this year. But like you said there was some huge games along the way. So in terms of experience, this group is developing and maturing all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Even if I go back to the Munster final, even last year, it was kind of the same as the All Ireland. And I think like close games, you learn a lot more from them as opposed to winning them well. Obviously winning well is a good sign as well. But like, I think when you properly dig out a win and when you're under stress and difficult conditions, I think it always stands to you a bit more.
Could you sense it on the pitch so last Sunday when Naomh Aban went 3 points up, but I think it was 10, 11 minutes to go? Like, you didn't panic at all. Could you see it in the team looking around the pitch saying, okay, we've been here before, we know what to do?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, it was in the back of my mind almost. I was like, oh no, is that it? But at the same time, I don't know why I thought that, because it's not like we haven't been in positions like that before. And I think especially the other girls really, really stood up on the day. Ava got a few frees, and it was when we showed our most composure, I think. And for her to kick over that last free under pressure for a 17-year-old, I don't know how she does it.
Describe that emotion. So right at the end when the whistle blew and you were crowned county intermediate champions. I know you're getting used to that winning feeling over the years, but what did it feel like on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it was probably one of the most special ones to date. Obviously, the more you keep winning, like you said, it is contagious. But like, I just still can't believe that we actually have got over the line and we've made it to the senior level. And I think that's why it's probably so special. You know, like, again, it's something that when the club started out in 2010, that it was probably the ultimate aim, I suppose, the ultimate goal. And the fact now that nearly 14 years later that we've done it, I think it's incredible.
As we were chatting just before we started recording, and I'd gone through the stats of the last 2 seasons, Laura, and you've won 19 out of 20 championship games, and the only game that you lost was to Valleys in the group stage this year. And we were chatting just before the county final, and you were telling me that you felt that was the game that kind of kickstarted your season. There was a game where after you lost that by a point, you're like, okay, we have to pull up our socks here. Did you feel that was a kind of defining moment in your season?
100%, yeah. Like I said, I think you learn a lot more from your losses as opposed to your wins. It kind of was an eye opener, like you said, that if we really wanted to compete and bring up our standards like we want to, then we had to improve in the next few games. And I think we went out the following week against Rosscarbery and we put in a really good performance. And then we've been building on that since in the last few weeks. So I think in one sense we have to give it to Valleys as well, that they've almost helped us get over the line, because, you know, like, they kickstarted our determination this year nearly.
Talk to me about the momentum and the feeling within the squad right now. You must feel like, I don't want to say invincible, you know, but like, it's just, you're on such an incredible run. It must be such fun going to training and hanging out with the girls and just playing the games. Like, it must be just a great environment to be in right now.
Definitely. And I think obviously winning always brings that sense of community into it as well. But yeah, like you said, like, the fact that we get to go to training now again tomorrow, like, we are grateful for that, and we're privileged to get that opportunity, because not many teams do get that at this time of year. So obviously we have to realise the position we're in now and just grab it with both opportunities. They're both handsome.
That sense of community, Laura. I think that's so important. Like this team we saw it last year really connected with the kind of the Skibbering community. Even the last day in Clodove, a full stand there to cheer you on. Like, what was it like to look out and see so many familiar faces kind of there to support you again?
Yeah, I'll never stop singing the praises of our supporters because they'd honestly travel the length and breadth of the place for us. Like I heard that there was tailbacks of cars all along going into Clodove GA, and just to know that like even and it wasn't the best of days either, and the fact that they'd come out, you know, young and old to support us, and they honestly want us to do well, and like knowing that they want us to do well and that they're rooting for us, it means so much.
And the season's not finished. You're going into Munster in intermediate campaign. I think it's Scarta again from Kerry. You're playing in early November, and that's at home in Skibb. Is it right?
Yeah.
So how much looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that now. Obviously, I think they lost the intermediate final last year, as far as I know. So they'll obviously be delighted to win intermediate like ourselves, but I'd say they'll be a very good side, and we'll have to have one of our best performances again to try get over the line against them.
You're almost pinching yourself again, Laura. Here we are, October, and you're looking forward to another Munster campaign. You've another county medal in your back pocket. It's kind of, there's so many similarities to last year. Like this, like I said, this fairy tale story just keeps on giving.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think, like I said earlier, I'm so grateful to be in this position because, you know, not everyone gets to say that they're playing football at this time of year, that they've won an All Ireland with their club or a Munster with their club, or even that they can play in a Munster campaign with their club. So the fact that I get to do it 2 years in a row, and that I get to do it with the same girls that we did with last year and the same management and the same supporters, it's just stuff of dreams, really.
And you're captain this year. What's it like to be captain of this group? Had you a speech prepared before the game the last year? Was it all? Did you kind of anything like that, or what was your preparation like before the match?
I didn't want to jinx anything, we'll say, but yeah, like I suppose captain is just a title at the end of the day, you know, like I'm just as important as the rest of the other girls out, you know, the 1 to 30, we're all just as important as each other. And like I said, captain is just the title that some person has to take. And in the end of the day, I think we're all leaders, and that's what's getting us over the line as well. You know, we've leaders in the backs and leaders in the forward, no matter what age we are. So I think that we all have the confidence and the friendship, really, that we're so close that that's helping us communicate better on the pitch as well.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about the O'Donovan Rossa defence. I was looking at the stats there. I think just conceding 8 points a game in your first season up intermediate. Again, after defining the last year, James O'Donovan singled out the Rossa backs. How important are they just to give you that platform to go and do what you do?
Oh, 100%. I think especially in the last 10 minutes when they got the goal, you know, we could have panicked, and even I kicked away a few balls in that last 10 minutes trying to high ball in just to get something out of it. But every single time the ball was turned over and the Naomh Aban girls started attacking, you know, our backs were the ones in the end of the day, and Ella Hayes in goal too, that turned it back over for us to get up the pitch as well and get those scores. So even though us as forwards and midfields are getting scores and our name is on the end of the article, will say at the end of the day it's the girls in the back that are stopping the other team from scoring too, and they're just as important, if not more important.
No, this has been a real team effort to get you where you are. So you're heading up to the senior ranks in 2025, but before that you've the intermediate in Munster. So the best of luck with that, Laura, and congrats again on your latest success.
Thanks a million, Kieran, and thanks for having me as well.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So it is that time of the week again where we look at what's in store for our readers in the Southern Star this Thursday in the sports section. And not surprising, really, it is O'Donovan Rossa ladies that are at the front page, front and centre in the Star this week. And there is a double page spread on their win over Naomh Aban in the Intermediate LGFA Championship last weekend. There's also talk about Castlehaven's win over St Finbarrs at the Premier Senior semi-final, where Brian Hurley produced a masterclass, obviously, and John Hayes will have his weekly column on what Castlehaven did to win the game and how they'll get on against Nemo in the final. A big preview as well for the Carberry Junior A Hurling Championship final between Bandascarty and Dermot O'Mahony, where both managers JC O'Flynn and Pat Lucy will be talked to this week in preview towards the final this weekend. That's not all the success for Ballinascarty in recent times, as the Ballinascarty Camogie team won the Premier Junior Camogie County title last weekend, beating Milford on a scoreline of 9 points to 5. And there is an article this week on their win over Milford and photos to check out in the Star as well. In soccer, Dan McKeown is on a goal-scoring spree for Baltimore as they top the championship table, and he will be talking in this week's Star about his exploits in the soccer field as well. There'll also be a review of the soccer action last weekend and much more in the Star as well. So pick up a copy if you are in and around the Skibbereen area or the West Cork area indeed. And of course, as usual, if you're further afield or can't make it to the shops, you could subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/subscribe, enter your details and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Until then, take care.